I want to say there's at a certain point, and kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, when, during a 40-year period of, huge profits, they give themselves another massive tax cut. It, like you said, it's stupid, but it's even worse than that. It's almost like self-defeating greed to the point where it's destabilizing society and is going to end up eventually with their head on a pike. You know what I mean? Or their head in a fucking in a goddamn
Ethan is recognizing the contradictions, Professor Wolff. That's what's going
Yes,
on.
or their
no.
head in a guillotine. So, like, how is it that they're not aware? They must be aware of where they're going. And at a certain point, I just don't understand why they don't acknowledge that I can be ultra rich. And also, it's as important that we live in a stable society where someone's not going to, people are going to come eat me.
Okay. Let me answer it by telling you a story. Since I am a graduate of the fancy schools in this country and have all the connections that those schools create for you when you go through them, the education you get, by the way, is quite mediocre, but the connections, they are super.
Yeah.
They're just
Okay.
super. All right. I have therefore been at the following conversation. A group of people sitting on the boards of directors of the biggest corporations in America. Some of them talk like you just did. They say things like, well, I'll quote you, Warren Buffett will say to the public, I pay a lower rate of taxes on my billions than my secretary does on what we pay her. Remember, he said that. He got a lot of play. So he gets it. He gets it that it's stupid what they're doing. It's self-destructive what they're doing. And he appeals to the other directors like him to see what he's saying. And he's not the only one. But the problem is there's another group of directors who come right back at him and say the following. The mass of people in this country are too divided, too disorganized, and too ignorant to figure any of this out.
They say that? They're that?
They say that.
They're
they
actually
that
malignant. It's just evil.
Well, it's very, look, if you keep sticking it, I'm going to defend them now, but I'm only answering your question. I don't mean to defend them, but I am going to defend them. Because here's where it goes. Once you get over your anger that they talk like, think like that, which I get, you're going to ask yourself, because you're a smart guy, why? I mean, people aren't born that way. Why would they think and talk like that? And here's the answer. They were Warren Buffett's in the past. They warned in their company, look, let's not go so far. Let's give the workers a decent pay. Let's, pay our taxes. Let's spend some money to make the city nicer for people or whatever. And they got shot down by the, let's call them, for lack of a better term, the conservative-y type, pro-business types. They got shot down, and the pro-business guys stuck it to the workers some more and evaded the taxes some more and didn't give a nickel to the community. And guess what? The profits of the company went up because there was no reaction. The local politicians didn't do anything. The people didn't get the pitchforks. They didn't march down Main Street with them. None of it. And so over time, they began to feel as though their, let's call it humane impulse, or whatever you want to call it, to be nice guys as employers was a mistake. Made them look like they were weak or in some way not as gung-ho to make a profit for the company as their fellow directors. They didn't want to take that kind of risk.
Right.
They didn't want that kind of reputation. They kind of swallowed their bad feeling. They stopped telling their wife about how they felt because the wife would notice that if you felt that way in the past, you're not feeling that way now. I don't hear you say anything about doing good for the community. You've got me sitting on the board of the local Y or the orchestra or the local charity, but you're not coming to the meetings and you're not even asking me anymore. So what you've got is a capitalist employer class whose majority thinks they can safely ignore the mass repercussions. Nothing will happen. The Republicans and the Democrats will distract people away from what we're doing to them economically. They'll get more interested in, I don't know, immigrants or in carrying a gun, or whether transgender people can use the toilet. We don't have to worry about.
And that's
the answer they give.
Sadly, that does make sense.
So what is the most effective mechanism of pushback in your opinion?
It's exactly what we were just talking about. Let me give you an example. As I'm speaking to you, in three countries of Europe is the answer: France, Germany, and Greece. In all of those countries, masses of people are letting the power structure there, both the political power structure and the business leadership, know that there are limits. In France, they are telling the president, Mr. Macron, you are not going to solve the fiscal troubles of France by depriving the people of 2 years of their pension. You're not going to do that. We're not going to let you. In Germany, all the railroad stations and all the airports are closed because the workers are on strike. And the issue there is the inflation. You are not going to jack up the price of oil and gas for all of us and then not change our wages. I mean, we're not going to tolerate it. And Greece, you might find, is even the most interesting. 4 weeks ago, they had a terrible train wreck, worse than the one we had in East Palestine, Ohio, but around the same time. It killed 60 young people, among other things. And they went into the streets to denounce the privatization of the rail system in their country. The government came down on them, and so now they're all against the government. This is making everybody stop and pay real close attention. The polls in France, my father was French. I speak French. I have since I've been a kid. The polls in France are about 60 to 65% supporting the people in the streets. So there is no escape from the president for him. He's in a deep, deep container of doo-doo and with very little mechanism to get out of it.
Well, what you're describing also, I have to mention this, but what you're describing is three nations that even with Greece that have a higher rate of participation in unions in the labor force, with a stronger history of labor uprisings, and also like even when you consider France, for example, even if they do not have actual card-carrying union members, they have collective bargaining agreements that encompass damn near the entirety of the economy. In France, it's I believe 98% collective bargaining agreements.
Yes, and they're industry wide. I mean, the unions get together, the employers get together, they bargain across the table, and it covers the entire industry across the country. That's
Whereas one fact that I like to always point to in the United States of America is the union participation rate in this country is actually even lower than a country that we destroyed, we eviscerated, like Chile. Chile has a 15% union participation rate. The United States, on the other hand, has an 11% union participation rate, which is unimaginable to think about. It's unimaginable to consider, considering what we've done in Chile. So I think that factors into this a lot. You talk about democracy at work. You talk about, how workplaces should implement a democratic process, even though it's authoritarian currently, and people expect that, and people think that that's normal. I think that that is the main mechanism of pushback, is
also,
building out.
I want to ask, maybe this is why. I'm just wondering, why are Americans so docile?
Yes. In many ways, that's what we've been talking about, even if it hasn't been explicitly in so many words. And the whole world wonders about it. I wonder about it, but I can assure you, I go to Europe fairly often. I give talks, papers at university conferences and crap like that. And that's the question I'm asked. What is it? The French have the yellow vests a few years ago. You guys may remember before the pandemic hit, this amazing outpouring of opposition among the French people to the rising cost of gas and electric bills. And so yeah, I mean, what is it about the American people? They grumble. You know what they say at the bar at night. You've been there. You know what they say over the dinner table. You know they have feelings about this. They're angry about what the price of eggs going up 2 to 3 times over the last 6-8 months. Everybody knows you can't. I mean, and inflation is a phenomena that pokes you in the nose, every day. So people know, but they have this sense somehow in America that it is either impossible or unwise to get together with other people, enjoy the benefit of having numbers, and beginning to actually act democratically, to say that we, the people, have a right to be heard, to have a right to shape the policies that we live under. They say it, but they don't really believe it. And somehow in there, I think, lies the explanation for this docility, for this hesitance to get out there and do stuff. It's very discouraging. And I want to go back to the story I told you about the board of directors I meet with. When you have docility like that, you are encouraging the corporate board of directors to think that they can get away with virtually anything. Amazon is in the process, in case you didn't hear it, of doing away with the free delivery. They got what they wanted.
There's
got
gonna
what
be blood
they
in
wanted.
the streets from that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they see profit. They're going to start changing. They've issued some indications. Only if you buy so much will you get. If you don't buy that much, you don't get it for free. And you might get it sooner, then the other guy's going to get it later. They're beginning to play the game because they don't think they have any opposition they have to fear. I did want to end my part of this on a more positive note, because I agree with everything you've said. I really do. But I want to again point out, these things can change. In France, it was believed that their working class was divided beyond all repair, basically divided as follows: a vast group of people in the middle, then an extreme right wing associated with the Le Pen family that you may have heard about, father and now the daughter as a leader of a far right wing anti-immigration thing. And then a fractured left with a communist party, a socialist party, a green party, and all the rest. And that they could not get together. The union, there are 8 national union federations in France. We have one, the AFL-CIO, they have 8, and they've never been able to agree on anything. In the last 5 years, all of that has changed. Here's what's happened. In the last election, that Mr. Macron won and that Le Pen came in second, a very, very close third, 1 or 2 percentage points less, was a unified left in which the communists, socialists, Greens, and 3 or 4 other parties all got together. Unheard of. And they were, as I say, 2-3 percentage points less than Mr. Macron. That's all. The division in France is very dangerous for the government in power because the left was unified. In the demonstrations that have involved millions of people over the last 2 weeks and are scheduled to continue next week again, the 8 different trade unions who have been unable to agree on anything else are all agreed. They are all together leading this movement. It's led by the labor unions united. France has never seen this before. And I believe it shows the wisdom of a famous remark made by a great leader years ago. Here's how it goes. For many decades, nothing seems to happen. And then in a few weeks, decades happen.
Who said that, Professor Wolff?
The man's name was Vladimir, but not Zelensky. You can think about who it might be, and you'll guess right.
Brilliant guy. He's really good. Really.